Happy day 5, the final day of the 5-day anti-aging Ayurvedic cleanse. I hope it's been, a wonderful journey for you. And if you still haven't done the actual cleanse, that's okay. We still, we have all the material here inside the Facebook group for you, and you can access the downloads, the guide that I created for you, and I'll be uploading the final document for you to download today after this session. So today in the cleanse, it's a kind of a few-part presentation I have for you today. First, we'll talk about the cleanse, because this is part of the cleanse. And on day 5, you are in the reintroduction phase. So that means, your body is still processing the toxins that were stirred into circulation. And so your digestive system has become more accustomed to a cleaner diet, and it may be somewhat sensitive. And so a transition to a normal routine and a more diverse diet is really critically important. This is the part that a lot of people kind of mess up on when they're doing the cleanse. They feel like, oh my God, I did the cleanse, and then they let their guard down, and then they just kind of like go immediately back to everything. And so that's a mistake, because we want to really ease back and take the time to ease back into your daily normal diet. So the slowness of this is very important. So I want you to really think of it as an essential part of the cleanse, rather than a gradual transition out of the cleanse. Think of it as still part of the cleanse. That way, your mindset is still like, I'm on the cleanse, and go slowly, and the Agni will, your digestive system, your Agni will thank you as you emerge back from the cleanse. So what I recommend is really to focus on eating the foods that are whole and simple, right? Less packaged, ready-made foods, the better. And it's a great time also, this reintroduction phase is also a great time to reintroduce the foods that, one at a time, and giving yourself kind of like 24 hours to observe how your body responds to each of them, such as, the things we eliminated from our diet, such as caffeine, such as dairy products, such as alcohol. So introduce them one at a time, one day at a time, and in a smaller dosage, right? That is the best way. And then you can observe, like, maybe you do have an allergy towards dairy, or maybe you have a reaction that you see that actually it's better to, minimize or cut out of your diet altogether some of these things. And the great news is that your body has really reset itself to living without that. So, you have kind of cultivated that courage to continue your journey without that, and all the more power to you, So it's a great time to observe the reactions, your of your digestive system to those things. And so that's really the dietary part of it. I would say if you did a 2-day cleanse, then do at least 2 days of reintroduction phase. So maybe today you introduce maybe fruits, and tomorrow you introduce more diverse vegetables. And then on day 3, if you are a meat eater, then you start with easier to digest meats like chicken, right? And then more complex proteins like that. I would not mix the proteins, like different kinds of meats, until at least a week after. And ideally, really, I talked about that research that was coming out around anti-aging that says that there's a certain pathway, your digestive pathway, that I believe it's called the M pathway of digestion, where if you overload yourself with complex digestive mechanisms, like when you're digesting meats, then it really is a disservice to your kind of anti-aging regeneration of your cells. So keep that in mind. The plant-based diet is still really the way to go when you're thinking about long-term anti-aging, So I have a little share of slides for you now, because I want us to focus now on the the title of the cleanse, this today is really from cleanse to clarity. And it's really about a transition for you into this brand new phase of life. So let me find that page for you and give me a moment while I get my technology in order. Hang on a second here. Okay, so present. Is that right? Okay. This should be the one. Let me know if you are seeing this. Are you seeing it? The slide that says from cleanse to clarity. Give me a thumbs up if that is the case. And then let's just get this going. All right. Are you seeing everything? Okay. Thank you, Konichi. Appreciate it. And let me just organize this. I think I'm going to put this guy. Okay. Won't let me do it. Okay. So it's a journey, right? And so we talked about the preparation phase, the active cleanse, and today in the reintroduction phase. And then we are, the yogic science, the Ayurvedic science, they have an understanding that life on this planet Earth is cyclical, right? And so when we think about stepping into a new stage of your life, it's a brand new beginnings. It's on the 11th. I mean, it's this coming week. I forgot the exact date, but it is a new moon coming up, and it is very much this brand new beginning energy, because this is the Aries time of the year. Aries is the new year, astrological new year, right? The energetic new year. And so it's a great time to set your vision, right? Clarify your vision and do this process again. So what does it mean? The mastering the cycles of life, we have various cycles of life. So we have the smallest cycle, the daily rhythm, right? And Ayurveda is wonderful at, really teaching us how to ride this cycle of the day. The Vata Pitta Kapha cycle recycles itself twice in the course of 24 hours. And so it teaches us like when to get up, when to eat, right? When to exercise, all these things. And then we're doing the cleanse at this particular time because it's the juncture between the Vata, the Kapha and the Pitta juncture right here, right? So we're coming out of the Kapha season of the winter, and then early spring is really that transition from Kapha to Pitta, when the liquid portion of Kapha tends to get liquefied due to the warmer weather. And so it's a great time to do that reset and reset of your digestive system, which is also, whenever you do a digestive reset, it also has an impact on your psychology as well. Physiology and psychology are a continuum, not two separate things, So, and then there is also, I'm sorry, it's a blurry slide, but Ayurveda, the Vata Pitta Kapha also affects us in this grander life cycle of birth, from childhood into puberty, into teenage years, into the adult years. I think, let me see if I can make this. Can I move you? Can I move this? Okay, I don't know. Zoom is not letting me move this slide, but okay. At the bottom, it says adult. Okay, menopause, this is for women, but, older adult age, and then into late adulthood. And then, so this later portion is governed by Vata. This is Vata, if you can't see. And then this, it's early childhood is governed by Kapha. Kapha is about anabolism, you're growing, and a lot of kids get respiratory disorders because the lungs are governed by Kapha, and Pitta is that fiery time when you're like, making your mark in the world and through your career. It's a kind of dominating your environment, learning how to master your environment, to grow your impact, all of that. That's the Pitta phase. So, it may be also this juncture between one stage of life and another, bigger transition. So the transitional points of our lives is really a unique opportunity to create a great change in your life, and so it's this energy of possibility we tap into. And it's you probably have heard, from your Instagram reels and all of that. It's like, we all talk about this shift that is happening during this, amazing time of grand new beginnings. But how do we practically make this shift? That's what we want to talk about. And I looked at it from different angles, but really from the yogic point of view, this is a subtle thing, but very profound thing, is that we tend to get very boxed in and, have our psychological reality be the reality. When we talk about reality, people say get real, because it's, we are used to a certain emotional tone in our psychological reality where it seems like bliss and ecstasy and the highest states seem to be unrealistic. It's because we live in a certain box of our psychological reality. And the yoga, the larger, yoga with a capital Y, is expounding on us, calling upon us to step out from the limited psychological reality where we're looking at life through a certain story, a certain limited way of approaching life, to a grander, to really opening up to life with a capital L, existence with a capital E, to look at life with the curtains of all this, the veil of all of our inner stories and beliefs, and just removing that and just really looking into life as it is. And that takes a lot of work to clear away these webs, this veil that we are used to seeing life through. And so this is really the journey from the small self, S, to the larger self with a capital S, right? Self with a capital S. And there is, as long as we're in the small S, there's an obsession with this intense identification with, when we say me, we usually mean my body, my mind, my personality, right? And along with that are all of the limiting things that go with the me package, and when we meditate, when we, even when we sleep, we actually dissolve this small minus, and we have an experience of our transcendental nature. And so this shift from this constant, contractive pull of the meanness into the larger self is the shift that we're talking about. So yoga really teaches us to, whether you've done the cleanse or not, it's this, shifting from having this personalities. So first of all, personality means, it comes from the Greek word persona, which means actually a mask. A mask is something that you put on and to function in the world, right? We all have a role to play. We all have many different roles to play. And so we have this persona we wear in the world so that we can relate to each other. It's very useful for that purpose. But then we've got to be able to also take the mask off and have an experience of ourself independent from all the labels that we have accumulated, all the roles that we have accumulated. And so for most of us, this mask has become stuck to our face. And so, it has become a cage that, that we feel bound by, and so yoga gives us an opportunity to really take that mask off and have a more expansive experience of ourselves as that capital S version of ourselves. So I promised in the email going out that, we talk about really this, how do we step into our spiritual power while pursuing your dreams in the world? And this is really something that I've struggled with as somebody who really was deeply committed to the sadhana, to the spiritual work. And at the same time, having to, make a living in the world and all of that. And I think all of you can relate to this sometimes this struggle that you experience between, this endeavor in the world and your spiritual sadhana. Just raise your hand if you've experienced that, because I think it's especially, this is one of the most common questions I get from people is like, so how do we practically, implement this, spiritual awareness in our day-to-day life, where we have to make a living and deal with all the practical stuff of being a human in this three-dimensional world, right? And sometimes a ruthless world, sometimes it feels like, So one thing that I've really come to realize is this power of the word that the words have over us. You know, um, we have this word spirituality and then worldliness, right? Spirituality and worldliness, spiritual and the world. And just speaking these two words, they seem to connotate something completely different, like two different modes of being. But actually, it's when you go deeper into beyond the words, actually you realize that actually they're just really differences created by words only. In reality, the both the foundation of the world and the foundation of you as a life, you as a piece of life on this planet Earth, it's supported by the same energy, right? And so there is this illusion created by words as well, first of all. And so one of the greatest things that let me just go back a slide here. One of the greatest obstacles on the path, on the spiritual path, and also on the path of succeeding in the world, is the thing that concepts, the power, the grip that concepts have over our lives is actually tremendous. Just thinking spirituality, it conjures a certain concept. The world, it conjures a certain concept, but it's actually a psychological construct. Right? It's like, spirituality, world, it's like they're constructs, right? They don't really exist. Beyond what exists is really purely simply life and the now and the now. So the thing is with concepts, as soon as we start thinking about the world, me and the world, it creates this division and separation, kind of anxiety. And like I said in this last slide, the emotions and the state of being, this anxiety, these states of being are real, So the emotional states that these concepts, that these words create are very real. It creates a real chemistry inside of our nervous system. Sometimes a fear response, sometimes a nervous response, sometimes, an anxious response. Those states of being are real. It creates real, it releases real chemicals inside of our bodies. So, this is something that the illusory words can create real states of being. And one thing about our state of being is that we can only, sorry, I have that. So we can only create, actions that are equal to our state of being. So let me just come off of share for a moment. So let's say if we have our thoughts are here, right? Our thoughts are here and our desired result is over here, right? So the thoughts about our future, the thoughts about what's holding us back, there's a certain frequency here, right? And it's creating a certain emotional state of being that is on the same frequency. And this kind of state of being frequency can only produce an actions of the same frequency. So it makes sense that then the results that this thoughts and emotions and actions create are of the same frequency as the thoughts and feelings that produce them. So if you want results that are up here, right? Results that are, that we aspire towards, that are part of our vision, right? Our dreams and vision are always beyond where we are now. And this is why, bridging this gap. How do we bridge this gap? Right? This is what our session today is about. And this cleanse, this physiological cleanse, and also the emotional cleanse of releasing the toxins, releasing the heaviness that we have been carrying, is part of the work we're doing to elevate, right? Close the gap, because the frequency of the vision lives at a much higher frequency than, our state of mind, our state of being here, where we are currently. So we have begun this ascent journey, right? And so how do we bridge this gap? So I'm going to go back to the share. And so, yeah, the problem is really the thoughts and emotions that we have been running has been, most of it has happened unconsciously. Why? Because we are, the part of the brain that creates thoughts is still a very new part of the brain. And I really wish that I could remove, hold on a second. There we go. Okay. Just so you can see this over here, right? So you can see that the oldest part of the brain is the reptilian brain, the lizard brain, in red right here, right? And this is the part of the brain we call brainstem and cerebellum that controls things like our body temperature, our posture, the constants of our physiology, and also the fight and flight response. These are really our instincts, right? Our instincts that even the reptiles have. And so then came the mammalian brain, which is our emotional brain, the limbic system. And so this part of the brain controls emotions and our memory and habits and our kind of deep-seated attachments. And then the part that governs our thinking is the neocortex, right? This blue part. And this is why, the human being is said to be, we're the top of the food chain because we have a capacity for abstract thinking and imagination, right? This is no other creature on planet Earth are endowed with the kind of imagination that we've been endowed with as human beings, or a vivid sense of memory as we as human beings have, right? So reasoning and rationalizing, and very important also as part of this capacity for the of this part of the brain is our ability to go meta on ourselves, right? Metacognition. That is the part that, we can become aware of our awareness. We can recognize our patterns of thought that are holding us back. And so we have the capacity to objectify our own thinking and go, I really want to change that. And I can't change that, and really tinker with our mechanism, right? We can really program our reticular activating system, that part of the brain that filters all of the information coming in so that we are noticing, right? We're really alerted to notice certain things and weed out the others. So this is a part of the brain that is really revolutionary as human beings, but this part of the brain is very recent, right? Relatively recent compared to these other two ancient parts of the brain, which took millions of years to evolve. The human brain is still probably, still maybe thousands of years compared to millions of years. That's actually a huge difference. And so we haven't completely mastered, right, how to use this thinking part of the brain. And so much of it, our thinking still happens quite unconsciously. Most of us think, I would think, at least 60,000 to 100,000 thoughts a day. And many of those thoughts, I would say majority, probably 90% of those thoughts are happening unconsciously. So let me move the slide forward here. So that's why, yoga is that technology, right? It's really about making this process, bringing more consciousness into that reality creating mechanism part of our brain, right? And I love yoga has been defined in many different ways in the classic texts. But one of my favorite definitions is yoga is skill in action. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 2, when Lord Krishna and Arjuna, they're in the battlefield, this epic battlefield, and this enemy is on the other side, thousands of, enemy soldiers. And on this side, Arjuna and Krishna, they're in the chariot, and Arjuna has kind of said, I don't want to fight this because all the people in the other side of, that I have to fight my relatives, those represent, my relatives, meaning my old tendencies, right? Our old habits and our old tendencies, our limiting thoughts, they're like our old friends and relatives, isn't it? Because we've grown up with them, we've inherited them from our parents, so there's this kind of battle going on, and Krishna says, yoga, you got to get up and fight, or Arjuna, because you are a warrior, and yoga is skill in action. So really, yoga is the alchemy. It's the cleansing process. So not only are we cleansing our digestive system, our physiology, but we're also cleansing those. It's a time for us to shift those old, the word shift, I think it's really more about transmutation, right? Taking those old, familiar loops of thoughts that have been holding us back for so long, maybe our entire lifetimes or decades at least, and begin to shapeshift them, cleanse them, shine the light of awareness on them, and create more space for pure, non-judgmental awareness to shine through. And the thing about this awareness is that it's a simple, just a source ray of light, but it is super intelligent light. Whatever it shines on, right? So let's say this is your state of mind when you come into the cleanse, and there's all these thoughts, this static from, whatever happened yesterday, the thoughts we've inherited from our authority figures, our parents and teachers, and from the media, and all this static is going on. And this circle represents the present moment, right? In the present moment, so many thoughts buzzing around. And so yoga begins to, by shining our light of awareness in the present moment, right? All those noise, the static, begin to fade away. Notice I didn't erase them completely. It's like they fade to the background and eventually they dissolve back, right? But so in this, we get to highlight. So we get to highlight a chosen conscious thought, right? A conscious thought, and bring it to the foreground. This is the process, of visionary yoga, really putting a spotlight on that chosen thought, consciously chosen thought, that will create the reality that you choose. Because we talk about the future, but actually the future doesn't exist, right? The future really actually doesn't exist, right? We talk about the past, we talk about the future, but neither of those things actually really, existentially speaking, exist. They only are, future is imagination, right? Past is a thought, impressions from the past. And the present moment is actually only thing that is real. We all know that. So in this present moment, right, we highlight that chosen thought. It's very, very powerful, very simple, but actually the simplest things, right? The most powerful things are the simplest things, isn't it? Because they escape our mind, because the mind loves to complicate it. Is that true? Mind loves complication, but the simplicity is, we have to discipline the mind to become actually more simple, uncomplicate the mind. So yeah, there's only one source of power. And so the world is actually, it's actually, all the yogic texts tell us, actually, it is illusory in nature. I mean, there is, in a certain domain, it seems to be real, but actually the world is made of the same energy as you, the capital Y version of you, are. And so this subject object, right, observer and object relationship is actually very illusory. So the most empowering thing you can do really is to streamline, to streamline your being into that oneness of your being. And this is tremendously, tremendously purifying. This is the fire of yoga, when you're able to do this. And the thing that really kindles that fire of yoga is devotion, right? So you have right now, a dream, a vision in various aspects of your life. This is kind of the wheel of your life, right? So you have, first of all, physical health, right? I put it in red because that's really the foundation of everything, right? So physical health, that's why we do the physiological cleanse, right? So, but dedicating the efforts to the cleanse, right? It takes effort to gain physical health, vitality. It really takes effort. And so offering that effort to the fire of yoga. And so I found really that this devotional fire, the fire of devotion, this we call bhakti, you got to have a relationship to the immensity of life itself. You can call it the energy of the guru, the energy of the universe with a capital U, the divine mother, the divine father. What you call it doesn't really matter, but cultivating that relationship to the oneness, the all-knowing oneness of life, this is what I'm calling devotion, the devotion towards that oneness, because that oneness holds your highest destiny, and so offering that effort to create physical vitality and health, right? And cultivating relationships takes a lot of work. I think I'm in a relationship that's like 22 years in the making now, and it still takes a lot of effort. It takes a self-reflection. It takes a calling. It takes time. It takes a sincerity, a devotion. It takes working things out, right? So relationships, and if you're working on manifesting relationships, that also takes time, right? Tuning into the higher quality of the person you wish to manifest and putting yourself out there, making the effort to, there's a difference between wanting something and being ready for some, a relationship. So getting yourself ready, it takes effort. And so all these right efforts, right? Offering that effort with devotion, right? To that fire of yoga, to that fire of oneness. Vocation, right? Manifesting that perfect job for you that uses all your gifts, takes a lot of dedication, going after it, energy, clarifying your vision, right? And putting your resume out there, going for interviews, talking to people. It takes a lot of effort. So sometimes we hit setbacks, and so whenever you hit a setback, it's like you got to double down on that devotion, right? And really reconnect through your heart, because heart is where you create your reality from. And if you're looking for more time to do the things you love, more time to travel, more time to, devote to your passion projects, adventures, and hobbies, I think this is a really important dimension of your life that we sometimes overlook, right? We get a lot of joie de vivre from this dimension of life. So offering it to, with devotion to the fire of life, making time for that. And by the way, I did a great talk on just really like 4 steps to manifesting your life's vision, to creating a year that, you'll never forget. And so I'll post that also in the Facebook group because I think it's very relevant here. And then inner dimension, your spiritual, I just call it the word spiritual an illusory word, but it takes a lot of effort to do this inner purification, to weed out the limiting thoughts, weed out the limiting tendencies of your being, and then to offer it up. It takes a lot of effort to forgive something, forgive yourself, forgive the other, because as you go deeper into life, you're cleansing out your karma, right? You're cleansing out your karmic closet, and you will have to face the deepest, your biggest obstacles in life, and so all that, like, got to offer it to the fire of yoga. This is the purification. So I just want to stop, share for a moment, because when I feel like I'm doing a monologue, I'd love to hear a little share from, or just you can type it in the chat. Like, what are some of the, obstacles and setbacks you've faced so far, on your journey towards your vision and dreams? What are some of the things maybe you're facing right now as you go forward? And you can raise your hand through the reactions digital hand, or you can also raise your hand if you can open your camera and raise your physical hand. That's fine too. It works both ways. So like, I got a sore throat yesterday, that's kind of an obstacle that, it's not a huge obstacle, but it's like, yes, I decided just to take a pause and to, practice self-care, self-love, and just not push myself quite so hard and just give myself that rest, so any obstacles any of you are facing right now on your journey? A silent group. Are you being shy because I'm on a live stream? fair enough. I hear you. Okay. So we'll come back to it after the live stream if you're feeling shy. So, so one thing is really that when you're trying to manifest something, it's really about losing that static of self-doubt, because we as adults have learned to operate with split energy. You know what I'm talking about? Split energy. It's like one foot on the gas pedal, the accelerator pedal, like, I want to move forward. I want this. And the other foot on the brake, right? It's like, I want this, but this but energy, this back and forth, I want this, but I doubt myself. I want this, and so the split energy really disempowers you. And so I want to really support you in getting to a place of clarity and certainty, right? Unify that energy. So, you know how kids below, I think, the age of 4 or 5 who have yet to learn self-doubt, they're super, super empowered, I'm just reading your, yeah, okay. I'm reading your, thank you for typing it in here, your doubts here. I start with new routines, but then I find myself repeating the same patterns. And an obstacle has been trying many alternative purposes and not finding the one that fits. Okay, thank you so much for sharing, both of you. Appreciate that. Yeah, so there is that, like, move forward, but then just kind of so we have this split thing going on, and we need to heal that. So let's get into, in this path of healing this split energy, I want to share with you the 5 dimensions that you need to really heal this split and, the clarity you need to actualize your vision. So this is the 5 dimensions that I work with my private clients, and just really at any given time, we're always working on one aspect of this. So one of them is, the first is clarity of vision, right? Clarity of vision is absolutely important. When I say vision, it's not just, a lot of times people have a someday vision, like, someday dream, someday vision. And one thing that, yogis have is really, again, their ability to live in the now. So when you have a vision, it's got to be so compelling, right? That vision must be so compelling with clarity and imbued with your emotional power. It must be compelling, and that thought, when you think about your vision, it should have your heart, that devotional energy in it. It should compel you, like there's an urgency to that vision, right? So one thing you can contemplate is, well, how long have you had this vision, and not realized it? And get in touch with the fact that our lives, all of our lives on planet Earth, is finite, and none of us knows. Right? None of us knows when our last day on planet Earth is. I mean, as morbid, I don't want to be morbid here. I hope all of us have amazing, sorry guys, I'm just like erasing all these things here. Okay. We all have amazing lives that, that are long and healthy and vibrant. But the fact is really that we don't know when this karmic movie is going to run out. And so this urgency, every day that you get, it's like have an ignited vision as opposed to a someday vision, right? And really, I help people to really fine-tune that vision, right? And then the second aspect, well, we have a vision, but then you need a path to get there, right? You need a path to get there. So we need to reverse engineer, right? We need to not just forge a path from here to there, right? But from that clarified, compelling vision, we got to reverse engineer to where we are now, create that bridge. So now, we talked about the vision being here and our current state of being here. So we try to throw a lifeline from the vision back to here. And then once we create that map, it it's the most direct path. It's the most direct path to your vision. And so, and it's very important that when we take the action that are part of that strategy to getting there, that we ignite ourselves with that same emotional energy, emotional energy of that vision, right? So continuously we're raising our frequency, our emotional, mental state of being from here to here, right? So it's like raising that notch as you take that bold, inspired, and probably imperfect action, right, to get there. That's the way, right? And so the third dimension that that we need to clarify before we can have our vision is optimizing our environment. So environment is 99% of the time more powerful than our willpower, right? So environment can, take the form of your physical environment where you are, like your office, like it's pictured here, or it could be your people's environment, which is actually quite important. We don't realize how much the people's environment colors, affects our path in life. So that's why, I love to have, I love to create a collective of people, right? I've gathered a collective of people who are vision driven, right? And who believe in having that higher vision in life and moving forward. Because when you become vision driven like that, then we help each other, right? We know what it's like. It can be very lonely to be a visionary because I think we've all had experience of like sharing our dreams to somebody who, maybe close to us, who didn't quite, who maybe raised their eyebrows or laughed at, or was sarcastic about like, oh, really, kind of energy. And that's enough, when your vision and dream is so tender to dash that dream. So it's so important to share your vision only in the safe, sacred crucible of other visionaries who get it, how hard it is to have a vision that seem maybe to others unrealistic. Visionaries are not realistic people, and we take pride in that, right? But we need to be in that circle of people, right? And then number 4 is upgrading your skill set. So there's many different kinds of skills. There's the hard skills like you need for putting on your resume, certain skills of working a software, or professional skills. But also there are subtler skills, right? The skill of vibrating to the frequency of your vision is one great skill to cultivate. It's a very subtle skill to cultivate. There's a big difference between vibrating to the frequency, becoming that frequency, and simply just thinking about your dream in a very upstream kind of way, like I wish, I want to. All those words imply kind of an upstream way of being with your vision. So it's so important to remove that resistance of that upstream kind of resistance, and just be like, enter that vision, become that vision, and vibrate to that vision. Be dyed like a fabric takes on the color dye, right? Be dyed in the color of your vision. And when you are that, then you have closed that gap between the frequency of your dream and where you are. And so this is the journey. And then number 5, and if I had to choose one thing that is the most important out of all 5, so we covered 1 was clarity of your vision, right? 2 was strategizing the path to get there, right? And then number 3 was optimizing your environment. Number 4 was the upgradation of your skill, right? Your hard skill, your life skills, your relationship skills, your subtle skills of envisioning and vibrating to the frequency of your vision. And then 5th is the mindset and the heart set. That is so mindset and heart set. I don't have the slide for this, but in yoga, one of the great things about yoga is that most mindset gurus out there, personal development gurus out there, talk about the mindset, but the realm of the mindset, actually, we have to go a little deeper than that, which is our way of perceiving life, right? And that is the lens through which we see life, right? Our mindset and heart set are a product of how we capture life through the lens, right, of our heart and our mind. And that is something we need to cleanse, right? This is the cleansing that we also must do during this cleanse, right? So not just the physiological digestive reset. And so I want to also support you, because in order to close that gap between the frequency of your vision and where you are now, one of the greatest things that hold us back is the stuff that happened in the past, the stories from the past, the setbacks, and maybe the things that you're still grieving now, the things that you're maybe still resenting and are angry about now. Maybe if you want to just, maybe raise your hand and just, you can raise your digital hand, but like, what are some of the things from the past that are still having a hold on your present state, that's not allowing you to fully expand into the frequency of your vision right now? Maybe it's something with your significant other, or it is something in the family that happened, or something financial that happened, or there's so many things in the school of life we go through. We get kind of scraped up a lot, and so the key word, the operating word here is it's hold, right? Release the hold on your present state of being. So this is what I want to, because what happened, right? And so there's just a three-step process. And it's a great skill in life. Again, another skill in life. Yeah, fear. Okay. And I would ask Padma, what is fear of what? Fear of what has been holding you back? So you can type that in the chat when you have a chance. But so step number one, it's like dragging that weight of the past hurt, the emotional weight of the resentment into the future is really, really not going to work. It's when you want to elevate yourself to that frequency of the vision, you have to have both your hands free, right? To take hold of that and just climb, with everything you've got to be able to raise yourself up. And so having this rope that, and this anchor to that past regrets is really a setback. And so I want to, release this, help you, and see this guy's like holding on to the rope, right? Well, so the thing is, so this thing can still exist, like it happened, and we can't change the past, so it happened, but we can actually release this rope and set ourselves free. And I thank you for Padma for writing so honestly. Yeah, fear of being seen, that's such a common fear that I have had to face. I think we've all had to face being seen in my power. And yeah, and there is an ageism in the world, and we feel, the fear of maybe facing, our age. But there's ways we can make a shift in which this three-step process can really help us. So step number one is really, really simple. Okay, so I had another slide here. Yeah, and another thing about the frequency is that, the vision is vibrating at the frequency of freedom, right? And our fear, our doubts, is vibrating in the place of our bondage, right? And fear and bondage, they have different frequencies. So it's, again, this work of closing that gap. So step number one is, as I said, it's a really acceptance. It's so simple, but it is really, it's profound. It's profound. I remember, I spent 7 years of my life in India, and the first 2 years of living in India as a fellowship scholar, studying Ayurvedic medicine and yoga in India was like the hardest year, because I was constantly saying, why does it have to be like this? Why isn't it like this? Why isn't it like this? And just being like, kind of resisting everywhere. And one day there was like a beautiful sunset, and I saw it through the pollution smoke that was in the town that I was living in. India can be very polluted, but the sunset, beautiful bright orange light was shining through, and I had a moment, a very soulful moment of going, you know what? Why am I making life so much more difficult for myself? Why am I resisting? And then I took a deep breath, and I just decided to accept. Like, I made the application for this scholarship, for this fellowship, and I chose to be here in India. I chose this path. And so I'm going to fully accept. I'm going to fully accept. In a moment I did that, a huge weight like fell off my shoulders, and I stopped blaming India for being India. I stopped blaming the school, the government institution of the school, for being, what it is, a government institution. And, I stopped blaming myself, my circumstances, and I just accepted, okay, that happened. Okay, I made this choice, and I'm here now, and I'm going to fully be here now, so accept what happened as what happened. And it's truly, the more you practice, and it's a practice, right? Acceptance is not just you do it once, it's an active practice. The deeper the hurt, the deeper the betrayal, or whatever you want, the deeper the fear, the doubt, the more pronounced that thing is. It's like accepting it. It's the more active that practice has to be. The more you practice accepting, okay, that happened, right? That allows you, it frees up a lot of energy for you to move forward. The next step, I'm sure you know it, is a forgiveness process. But now, a lot of people misunderstand forgiveness. People think, a lot of people think it's about, being just nice and compassionate towards that person and just being all lovey-dovey. But forgiveness is not about letting the person who hurt you off the hook, right? It's not about that. It is, it's actually in the word itself. Forgiveness. Forgiveness is actually a process of, exchanging or giving for one limiting perception for another, right? So yeah, think about that. When you are hurt, you have a certain way of perceiving the situation, a certain lens of capturing the circumstance. And that has a certain mindset to it. That has a certain come from and certain belief. There is a mindset and heart set behind that way of capturing, right? And so exchanging that perception for another way of, and it doesn't mean that, like everything is love. It doesn't have to be like, you don't have to go meet that person again. It's more realistic to say that, okay, that happened. I never ever want to freaking go through that experience again. I learned it the hard way. I never ever want to go through that again. But it's about forgiving, forgiving what happened. And okay, that happened. Okay, that happened. And I am going to actively choose to wish everyone, including myself, who was a part of that experience, who was a part of the unskillfulness, I'm going to wish everyone well, because if we knew better, we wouldn't have been in that experience. And so Buddha said once, resentment is like picking up a hot coal, thinking that it's we pick up the hot coal wanting to throw it at that person who hurt us, but actually it's the person who actually picks it up who gets burnt. So resentment is like that. Anger is like that. right? And so that is the process, and so in releasing, dropping that whole hot coal, even just the memory of that, we really give ourselves the gift of freeing ourselves, So forgiveness is really the journey from like, this event, this incident has ruined my life. This way of seeing life, it has limited me, or what, whoever it is, whatever circumstance you had to go through. It's like the journey from going from this ruined my life to, yeah, this happened and I never want to have, go through that again, but I'm going to just release everyone, especially myself. And that frees up a lot of energy for you to turn around and move forward. Yeah. So it's a shift, right? That it really removes that block from your perception and moves you from, into the awareness of the presence of love, that actually, you are that love that you seek. And so it is that shift in perception is forgiveness, giving for one limiting perception for more expansive perception. Yeah. So yes, wonderful. Being in acceptance. It's a beautiful thing. So let me move forward here. And then the last step really is this empowering step of embracing generative gratitude, right? And that's, I distinguish between, the gratitude of like transactional gratitude, when you receive something pleasant, like a compliment or a gift basket of, something nice, pleasant. That's easy to say thank you for. Right? But the generative gratitude is the gratitude in the face of challenges, right? In the face of challenges, and having this spaciousness and the courage within you to look at that experience and go, okay, something that I learned from that experience, like allowing yourself to embrace the gratitude for what you learned from that experience. Okay, I learned to never do that again. I learned to, be more, aware going into a circumstance, be more skillful in the words I choose, right? Be more skillful in my reaction, my response to a certain circumstance. And, so we learn so many things from that. And so this is something that we learn that's going to be tattooed to our brains and heart, right? Forever moving forward. So embracing generative gratitude. Gratitude is an alchemy. It really transforms that setback, which is a block that kept your vision very limited, that heavy weight, and it transmutes it into, again, that fire of yoga. It takes the darkness and transmutes it back to the original light so that you can soar into the frequency of your vision. So it's really that transformation, right? So it's so true that, in the school of life, we learn by getting it right and by getting it wrong as well. And so being in acceptance of that and moving forward. So we can truly harvest the learning by releasing the past. We can take the light aspect of that experience and leave the darkness behind. We don't need to continually activate that. So this whole 3-step process really kind of separates the light, the gems, from the darkness. So we can leave the darkness in the dust and take that gem of our learning with us into the future. It's truly a gift we give ourselves. And so I want to take a moment. I think I'm going to stop share. And I want to just ask you all, what are, we're in this portal right now, this brand new beginnings energy. What are some of the longings and discontents that are surfacing for you as we step into a brand new cycle of life, perhaps maybe even a brand new stage of your life? What are some longings and wants that's coming up for you right now? And I'm going to stop the share for